spirituality. So I hope that you join me and receive some extra content for the support. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like it as well. And if you're new around here and you love true crime ASMR, please subscribe. Now, today's case is gonna take us back to the year 1998 when Carl Jackson was 21 years old. Carl's mother was a nurse and his dad a postal worker. According to the New York Times, he worked as a data entry clerk at Morgan Stanley. He was described as a kind of shy and quiet young man. He was one of those that avoided Halloween or avoided going out on Halloween. And the only reason why he did it is because he thought it was dangerous. On Halloween in 1998, it was different. He had something to do on Halloween. And I'm gonna make a pause here and say, yes, it was dangerous, quote unquote dangerous, to go out in Halloween or on Halloween at the time, and I'll explain why. But I feel like even today there's a lot of people that still doesn't like to go out on Halloween night. I remember I had a friend that wouldn't even go out during the day. I mean, wouldn't let her children go out during the day or night of Halloween. It was like, let's wait until October is over. But I never liked to drive on Halloween. I feel like afraid that, kids are gonna run in front of my car or something. But I do know quite a few people that really avoided going out, and I never took the time to ask, why is that? But I realized that there was something that really scared them about that particular night. And that's exactly how Carl was. They don't explain specifically why he was so scared, but it came to a point again in the year 1998 that he had to go out. He had a girlfriend, and they didn't go out for fun, but his girlfriend had a 9-year-old son, and the son needed to be picked up from a children's party that he was at. Now, it was later in the evening, and as you probably must know, it gets dark super early. Like I've noticed we would have light until almost 10 o'clock at night in the summer, and right now at 5:20, 5:30 it starts to get gray and dark. Not nighttime, but so I can only assume that even early in the afternoon it was going, or evening, it was already dark. But they went to pick up the 9-year-old son. They got in the car, and as they were driving through this road, they realized that something was hitting them. sits back down in the passenger seat after this discussion. And that is when one of the teenagers pulled out a gun and shot him in the head. And I mean, it wasn't uncommon for this thing to happen. Sadly, as I mentioned in the beginning, even Carl knew that something terrible could happen. You see, since the year 1984, at least 24 people have been seriously wounded or killed in stabbings, shootings, beatings, or accidents on Halloween. This is because of some kind of an egg throwing confrontation, which sounds ridiculous to me, but I guess that sometimes those teenagers trying to have fun are not necessarily innocent, and it's just a prank. All 24 cases were the same way. A group of boys throwing eggs at people, walking by at houses, cars, and then there is a confrontation and violence. Most of the 24 victims were teenagers or young men. I guess those are the ones that got out of the car and argued. Some people believe that with the excuse of Halloween costumes and masks, teenagers feel like they can do this and get away with it, which I have to disagree. Not all teenagers are waiting for like Halloween night. This is not the Purge, you know. I don't think they wait. I think that there's a lot of kids that there are a lot of kids involved with either some kind of a gang or with not the best friends, and I guess not all teenagers are just looking for a good old prank, but they have the means to defend themselves. I mean, if you think about it, this egging happens everywhere in the country. But interestingly enough, New York City, which is where this happened, is the one with people dead and some other ones seriously wounded. And it goes both ways. I mean, sometimes it's the egg throwers that kill the person, but sometimes it's the person being egged that gets so upset that chase them, and try to harm them. Other people died trying to get away from this situation. I mean, they even, I read this again. This was in the New York Times. Apparently, the 104% in Queens, for them, eggings are very serious business, even though it sounds ridiculous. They even ask, stores not to sell eggs or shaving cream to teenagers or minors during Halloween. So, and it's so important to them that they even organized a campaign around it. 2 days before Halloween, in 1994, there was this guy that was leaving a bar in Brooklyn, and he was hit with eggs tossed by a few boys. I mean, the guy got so mad that he killed one of the boys, and he was only 12 years old. Then in 1996, a 10-year-old years old at the time, and the brother of a police detective was shot and killed in the Bronx after he chased a group of teenagers who threw eggs at his minivan. Jeffrey Ivey, who was 15 years old, he was found guilty of second-degree murder. Every Halloween, on the anniversary of Carl's death, his family gathers at Woodland Cemetery in the Bronx. They write messages to him on painted stones. They leave at his grave. The teenager prosecuted for Carl's murder was Curtis Sterling, who was 17 years old at the time. He was convicted and sentenced, and every Halloween he receives a card in the mail that says, "I am glad you're still there." And it's from Carl's mother. Now, when I decided to cover this case, I initially thought that it was kind of silly to see how some people, some pranks gone wrong, I love to watch pranks, videos and stuff like that, and I can only tell you that, they share with you the good ones, but you never know who you are pranking. And so, to me, when I initially read the story, I was like, is this for real? Does this really happen? In doing research, I realized that this happens a lot, especially around Halloween. And sometimes we don't hear about it because nobody died, but they were seriously injured. Because we don't get the background of the story of what really happened, but we know that somebody was stabbed in Queens, or somebody was shot in New York, or somewhere somebody was shot in, on Halloween night. But I also feel like there's a small percentage, thankfully, of people, especially teenagers, that after reading all about this, it really kind of reminded me of The Purge. Have you ever watched that movie? I'm pretty sure that most of you have. But the idea, if you haven't, is that one particular night you have 12 hours, I think, to go out in the streets and kill whoever you want, and you won't go to jail for it. That is the main idea. In the movie, they say that they do that to get rid of the homeless and the people that are no good to society. It's kind of purging society. And people with money, or people that, avoid it, just lock themselves in their houses, which they're not 100% safe either. And you would know that if you watch the movies. It is a silly concept, really, of the movie, if you think about it. But I have to admit that it's still scary. Scary to see that there's people willing to do that kind of thing, for like a sport or for fun. I don't know what you would find fun of taking somebody else's life, no matter if they're homeless or, I don't understand how that's even years, I can assure you that the thought of the movie and the intentions and everything kind of came back to me, thinking that sadly, if that was, that was something allowed today, it'd be a scary place. It would be a scary night. And I think there would be more than one person willing to go out to purge the country, to purge their local communities from what they think is not good for them. So yeah, sadly it becomes a little bit more real, the idea of a silly movie that I watched years ago. And all of a sudden it clicked in my head that there's evil people out there, and if they were allowed to do it, they would. Coming back to this case, that kind of shows you that sometimes hiding behind a mask or a Halloween costume or whatever it is, people feel entitled to do things that other nights they probably wouldn't do. So Halloween, is it the purge? Is it like a green light for people to hide behind something to do their evil deeds? I really don't think so. I think it is that for a small percentage of people, but not for everyone. Sadly, I think in the last years we've been seeing a lot of evil, or people allowed to do evil, and to do things that 10 years ago would have been a terrible no. We're not savages, we don't do that. No, we don't say that. I guess that with times comes a lot of good things, like new forensic tools to catch the bad guys, and new apps and new things on computers, and technology advances. But it is also, I feel like, giving us a green light, sadly. And not for everyone, but for some evil people, to hide behind a mask, to do what they really want to do. Such a terrible story, and I just can't put myself in Carl's mother's shoes. I couldn't. My kids have been going out on Halloween every year since they were, 13, 12, with their friends, walking up and down the road, and it's such a fun time for them. I was talking to my 19-year-old son. He was telling me that this, his friend is in a mission. He's like, I'm gonna miss him because for the last, I don't know how many years, 8 years, 9 years, I can remember every single Halloween we just spent walking up and down the road and watching scary movies and hanging out. Halloween is what you make it for you. And I concluded that if there's evil